this is the command of the United States of America. The president is Abraham Lincoln, soon to be assassinated after one more year. The Lieutenant General and General-in-Chief of the Army of the Potomac is General Ulysses S. Grant, and he's the head honcho of the United States military at the time. William Tecumseh Sherman was the general in charge of the Western Theater. He had 3 armies under his command. His smallest one is the Army of the Ohio, which only consists of 1 corps. Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant and Major General William Tecumseh Sherman were best buds for their entire lives, although William Tecumseh Sherman left the earth much before Ulysses S. Grant. They both graduated from West Point at the exact same time, although Ulysses S. Grant was a lot younger. Ulysses S. Grant, after being promoted to head of the United States military, decided to crack a master plan to take down the Confederate States of America once and for all. He decided to make a master plan. He would attack Lee and try to get Richmond. Some other guy would attack Richmond from the south. 2 other guys would take this exact point, Manassas, and they would be able to cut the supply line of General Lee like that. And Sherman's is important. He would attack Johnston, and his exact orders was to make it down to deepest into enemy territory, destroying as much of the enemy's resources as he can. There was no exact... Grant did not tell Sherman to actually attack Atlanta, but Atlanta had 4 railroads which connected the entire Confederacy together. If Atlanta fell, the whole Confederacy would fall apart. But there's something else important. Abraham Lincoln is not in a good position. The election is coming soon, and Abraham Lincoln knows that he's going to lose the election. Ironically, his opposing candidate is former commander of the Army of the Potomac, George B. McClellan. So without a major victory, Abraham Lincoln will not be able to be reelected, and thus they will not win the war. The Confederacy has a whole different story. Their current president is President Jefferson Davis of the Confederate States of America. Their current head honcho, who is not shown over here, is Robert E. Lee. The rank that Joseph E. Johnston has, he's important, is Commander of the Army of the Tennessee. Before this, Commander Braxton Bragg was in control, and he was a pretty good general, until something bad happened. During the Battle of Chattanooga, he was defeated, so he retired his role as commander of the Army of the Tennessee. Therefore, he was replaced by General Joseph E. Johnston. Joseph E. Johnston has only a few commanders in his hands, and most of them are not experienced that well. Now, Joseph E. Johnston and Jefferson Davis do not have good blood. They hated each other. Jefferson Davis wanted Johnston to go ahead and attack General Sherman. But, you see, General Joseph E. Johnston was in control of 1 minor army. Sherman was in control of 3. That will not succeed. So he went against this. Now, before this, Robert E. Lee had been fighting in Virginia, and he was in charge of the West against Sherman. Sherman used a flanking maneuver. Over here at the map. First, he went down to Dalton from Chattanooga. He encountered Johnston's army at Resaca. He took to the Confederate right and outflanked them, so Johnston went back. They met at other places like Lost Mountain, the Mountain Line, and finally they were able to get to New Hope Church, Pickett's Mill, and most importantly for this, Kennesaw Mountain. Now, Kennesaw Mountain was strange because they would not be able to outflank them because there's mountains everywhere. It had been raining for 2 weeks by that time, and if they had to go through the best place that you can flank them, then they would have to go through an entire ocean, which was not good. The southern economy was not good. It was collapsing. But Atlanta was noisy and bustling with happiness. They produced many textiles and was one of the richest. They produced 12-pounder, 6-pounders, a bunch of these. Joe Brown, the governor of Georgia, knew that he would not have enough equipment to be able to stand against Sherman. So he created Joe Brown pikes. The pikes, they were not actually used. Over here we have a 58 caliber Cook and Builder carbine. It was used for the cavalry. It was soon replaced by other weapons that could be loaded in the breech and other types of carbines. The art of moving armies is complicated, to say the least. Maps were not the best. The technology at the day wasn't the best either. The best thing that they had to communicate over long distances was telegraph, which took about 1 hour for the telegraph to be able to send a message all the way around the world. This, in short distances, flag maneuvering is very important because if you have an army, then you would be able to wave the flag so that you could tell your teammates what was going on. So for example, quarter to the left, that would mean to the right. And then quarter to the right, it would mean to the left, something like that. This would be able to confuse the enemy because every single brigade had their specific type of messaging. Now, in order to see those little flags, or the torches if it's at night, they would use telescopes. They would also have little pens, inks, calendars, and of course notebooks to keep track of what they're saying, to keep track of intel. The Confederates were not looking. But in order to talk about war, we gotta go over the weaponry. During the American Civil War, what was common was this for the Union soldiers with the Springfield Model 1861. Infantry was now armed with percussion cap weapons, which used percussion caps, tiny little brass little caps down here. They would put it in their percussion cap pouch. They would stick it into that little nipple right underneath the hammer, pull the hammer back, and when the hammer strikes it, it sends a gust of flame into the barrel, making the gunpowder explode, launching the bullet out. The bullet was the mini ball. It was extremely deadly. When it hit you, it would flatten and destroy all your bones. It was not good to be hit by one. A bayonet. Bayonets are large knives that you connect to your rifle. They were not used that much during the American Civil War, but they were basically the multi-tool of the time. You see, soldiers were supplied with candles, but they were not supplied with candle holders. So how shall you be able to get some light? Instead of just buy it, you take your bayonet, stab it into the ground, and put the candle into the socket. It was very smart. Although all the weaponry was extremely deadly, the tactics has not changed for a very long time. As you can see in this little sketch, the tactics were basically the same as the American Revolutionary War. There were many flags for the Union and Confederates, but we will be focusing on the Confederates. This is the first Confederate national flag, the real one. Now, the national flag that you're probably familiar with is this one, but this is a battle flag. It was never actually used to symbolize the Confederacy except for a single brigade in the Confederate Army. Now, this is the first Confederate national flag, the stars and bars. The person who got it from the U.S. flag and the Austrian flag, but it was replaced. Why? Well, it was simple. Red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue. Same with the Union. It had the basic outlook of a Union or Confederate flag. So if somebody was raising it, they would not know which one was Union and which one was Confederate. So it was replaced by the stainless banner. But the stainless banner also had a problem. It looked a lot like a surrender flag. So they replaced it with the third Confederate national flag, the bloodied banner. It had a bloodied banner right there, which allowed people to recognize it as a Confederate national flag, not a surrender flag. Sadly, you would have to replace this and replace this, because after a few more weeks of taking this, you replace this with this, and the Confederates surrendered. Now, battle flags were very unique. They could be different for every single brigade. But that's basically it. Cherokee Dragoons, those are probably the Confederates' flag for cavalry. Marietta was a great town. It was underneath two mountains, Kennesaw Mountain and Little Kennesaw Mountain. They were both very popular, but war was about to hit it. Now, when war hit, you see, the technology at the time was not as good as what we enjoy these days. They had no vaccines. They did not know that germs were a thing. So this is what they had. If you got shot, then they would have to cut your leg off. That giant bone saw, yeah, they cut it like that. So the park service came and had to repair this a little. When they opened it up, they found a bone that was still inside here. They removed it, luckily. So for officers, they would usually get a type of arsenic. They would have opium, mercury, and arsenic so that they would not be able to feel anything. For regular soldiers, whiskey, because alcohol is the best. Mourning jewelry is basically some jewelry with a bit of dead people's hair in it, so you can remember them. For example, if a soldier died, then they could cut off a bit of his hair, stuff it into a little mourning jewelry, and stick it on your finger. Now, the mini ball, when it flattens, it hits you, and it flattens like that. That's very unpleasant, and it'll make your bones go shatter. Now, the surgeons, they did not care how you felt. They just took your leg, had somebody hold your foot and go. You could, if you had your leg cut off, then you could just feel it. What they would do is that they would bite the ball. What they would do is they would put a mini ball in their mouth and bite it so that they wouldn't scream. The Battle of Kennesaw Mountain. Now the first battle went like this. Johnston moved back and created a large defensive line against Sherman's 3 armies. Now, this is Kennesaw, Little Kennesaw, Pigeon Hill, and this is Cheatham Hill. Those are the most important. And Culp Farm is right about here. Got it? Now, the first battle was the Battle of Culp Farm. Hood's soldiers moved towards all of the soldiers in this area, and they attacked, but they were eventually repelled. It lasted for a few hours. In one part, a Confederate sergeant threw a bomb, which had just been shot into his trench. He was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions. Medal of Honor number 1, Confederate. Now, the second part, after fighting there, William Tecumseh Sherman decided to do something. Look right here. So after the fighting around here, Sherman decided to do something. If he attacked the sides, then Johnston would take a bunch of soldiers from the middle and put them there to stop him from being able to get through the sides. And what does he leave weak? The center. So he attacks here and pushes into the center, here and here. They came in this way. The visitor center and the museum that I'm standing in is in this area. So they came down and attacked, and they were all either killed, injured, or captured. Not exactly something I would call a success. Meanwhile, Ollie's Creek is going by, and they realize that there are no Confederate soldiers to fight there. But still, the attack on Pigeon Hill commences. The Union troops march up the hill, and then they are immediately repelled because it's too rocky and they have no cover. They have no cover. But there is something better that did happen. Cheatham Hill. The brigades start attacking. Focus on McCook right now. McCook and Harker. They attack at here. Now over here is important. This is at an angle. So they're charging up this hill and they come up this way. Then, guess what? They make it all the way up here. They make it all the way up here. This is where the Illinois Monument currently stands, but they are able to make it all the way to the front entrenchments, right in front of the actual trenches. If they go over the trench, then they would be killed. If they ran away, then they would be killed because they can't see anything, so they stay there. It becomes a stalemate. The Union troops dig in over here, and it's really bad. At one point, Gross comes over and tries to attack Membane's Tennessee battery with 2 guns, and Membane uses camouflage to trick them, and boom, they're obliterated. So all of this is a failure, right? Yes. But there were a few Medal of Honors handed out. This one was awarded to Private William A. Billy Hughes for sacrificing his life to save a friend at Kennesaw Mountain. This guy used a Henry and shot 120 rounds of ammunition. After that, one of his friends was like, "How many did he kill?" And he said, "I aimed at every single one of them. Brother, it made me sick." He hit them all. So, yes, they won. But at Ollie's Creek, the Union troops push through, and they're able to get past. The Confederates are afraid that because they will be able to do that, then they would be able to cut off their supply line, which allows the Confederate Army to survive. So they leave their position at Kennesaw Mountain. In the years following Kennesaw Mountain, Sherman flanks at Kennesaw, skirmishes at Smyrna. Confederates fall back to Smyrna. Johnston's river line consists of a new invention, showpades. Confederate troops go across the Chattahoochee River. Hood replaces Johnston. Women in combat. Battle of Peachey Creek. Garrett's Raid. Battle of Atlanta. And the capture of Atlanta. The Battle of Ariza Church. The Battle of Mobile Bay, Alabama. Shenandoah Valley. Wheeler's Raid. Kilpatrick's Raid. Civilians under siege. Confederates surrender Atlanta. And on April 9th, 1865, he surrenders. Nearly every single tree after the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain looked like this. Artillery shells embedded inside. It was terrible. But no matter how bad it was, it allowed Atlanta to be captured and made Abraham Lincoln win the war.